The thing about this kind of numbness that overtakes us is that we live in a very fast-moving culture. There's a lot of busyness, and success is equated with busyness. But we're going to change all of that today, and we're going to really take a hard look at ourselves so that we can be free. We can actually experience happiness and other feelings as well. Because numbing out creates mediocrity and a low-volume human that actually is this kind of low-grade depression. Hey guys, it is Allison. I am the host of your show, Allison Answers Mission Awake. I cannot wait to sit down with you today and go over how we are going to crush the mediocrity in your life that has been plaguing our society since the beginning of time. I cannot wait to have a real deal conversation that includes intelligence, fun, excitement, and real actionable steps to make a real difference in the life that you're living now and making it into something you can be damn proud of and excited to live. Sit down, put on your damn seatbelt, and get ready for the ride of your life. Hey guys, if your life is impressive on the outside, but strangely flat inside, welcome. The show is for you. I'm going to share with you how I became very flat inside. And while all along in every direction of my life, I was succeeding and showing up and, hitting every goal, I had a week where, like I was saying, I hit every goal. I talked to all my staff. I showed up the way I thought I wanted to. I took care of my dogs. I responded really well to my 4 kids. I was doing well in my home and in its renovation. And, I ended up at the end of the week, and I was like, what happened? It's Friday, and I can't remember one real feeling that I've had. Because now when I end up in my house, the week of work, or, you could even say really crushing it, helping people, doing the things that I believe are best to do. Now I end up here in the silence and I don't recognize myself. I feel flat because now there's, now it's me and me. So what I want to say to you guys, what's going to happen today to you, the person who relates to this, one-on-one, me and you talking, this is something that can happen and does happen and can happen to anyone. And what I have experienced is that, mediocrity is not laziness. I am the farthest thing from lazy. I can move all day long, and I can also miss how I am operating at like a 60% volume. So what mediocrity is, and this show is about crushing mediocrity, so we don't want to get far off from that. It's like an emotional dimming over time. And I'm going to explain to you how this emotional dimming, this mediocrity, this kind of numbness that any one of us, even high achievers, can face, how it slowly manifests in our lives, one little step at a time, small moments, and how to get out of it. Because it's actually necessary. One of the things that you'll start to see, as you numb out over time is you'll see this kind of subclinical depression. You'll start to see this kind of weird kind of feeling of you'll have emotional dysregulation or stress dysregulation. You'll start to notice that maybe you feel just zapped out. And I'm going to go into it and explain it to you. So basically, let's talk about how smart, caring, high level or high intelligent, people, no matter what they're doing, it doesn't have to be business. It can be a mom who's just working her butt off with her kids and really seemingly crushing it. Smart, capable, beautiful people, how they end up living at that kind of 50% volume. It could be as low as 40%, right? And now we're going to talk about how we can raise it up. So here's the warning signs. One of the most important things to do is to be able to be awake and aware in the now without judging yourself. So the reason that I'm doing this podcast is because I'm sharing some really vulnerable and personal things about me. And in my life, I am known as someone who is always thinking of a new innovative idea. I'm always someone who's looking to create something new, to challenge myself, to take a risk. And I have found myself, looking in the mirror at the end of the day, feeling flat. And, and this is an important thing for anyone to know, no matter where you are in life, because if we hide these things from one another, that's a contributor to that flat, depressed, dark feeling. So my hope is that you're going to hear this, and this is not just for people who are crushing it. It could be for people who just can't get going. It's okay. What we want to do is we want to crush mediocrity, because mediocrity causes depression. It causes suffering, and we don't want that. And it's a slow, low-grade suffering. So some of the reasons why, we're just going to go into this a little bit. I have a lot of notes because I wanted to make sure I delivered this really well for you guys today. So one of the reasons that we numb out, okay, because the numbing is part of this mediocrity. So we numb to cope with overwhelm. We numb to cope with grief, with shame, with chronic stress. I came from a place in my childhood that the way that I emotionally walked away from my childhood was with this very, very large core of shame. And maybe someone could look in and say, I don't understand the shame exactly, but I know that was the core makeup of my belief system. So for me, part of, when we get reminiscent or something resonates with an old feeling or an old pattern that's just stored in our bodies, that will increase inside of us this feeling of shame. So we can unknowingly, because of certain situations or, different environments that we're in, that suddenly feel this very, very strong emotion or this subtle, dull shame, and we don't even realize it, because it's a part of our childhood programming. And what then can happen at that moment is that we numb to protect that. It's too much to feel. The shame, if we don't recognize it as shame, if we don't recognize grief, there are moments throughout my day that I have reminders of my late husband that just pop up, out of nowhere. And they feel like a punch in the stomach. Even saying it, I want to cry. So if you're trying to live your life and move forward, it's not easy to move forward when those things happen. Look, I'm crying. So anyhow, but this is what we're supposed to do. This is a natural human response to recalling something painful. The thing about this kind of numbness that overtakes us is we live in a very fast-moving culture. There's a lot of busyness, and success is equated with busyness. But we're going to change all of that today. And we're going to really take a hard look at ourselves so that we can be free. We can actually experience happiness and other feelings as well. Because numbing out creates mediocrity and a low-volume human that actually is this kind of low-grade depression. So we think that moving away from feelings and not, numbing out and not experiencing them, or moving too quickly for them, so we're not going to feel them. If I move quick enough, it's not going to catch me. I mean, I can say that I probably do that, but I don't know I'm doing it until I know. We don't know until we know. So back to just the different ways that we numb out. We numb out because of overwhelm, because of grief, shame, chronic stress, like I was saying. Numbing works over a short term. It helps us in the moment that we're in. Over the long term, it's like water over a rock. It just slowly dulls us out. It flattens desire. It flattens creativity. It flattens connection. Have you ever noticed when you're just kind of numbing out that the connections that you had don't feel as vibrant, that you're not as excited possibly to see your spouse or someone else, because you just like, and it can also translate into words like, I'm tired, I'm bored, blah, blah, blah. You never want to say those words. You want to solve for those things. So now let's go back. It looks kind of high functioning. So the thing is that like, if meetings are made, kids are fed, inbox is cleared, like our soul is asleep though. And with the soul asleep, we can do all these activities and we can crush our goals, but we're missing ourselves and it dulls us over time. And this is very important. People can gain the whole world, but it doesn't profit us if we lose our soul, right? So that's my whole point even of my book, The Wake Up Call, because basically it maps through, taking a real look at your life and saying like, what are the patterns? What are the beliefs? What are the core drivers for the way that I'm living, feeling, acting, breathing, behaving, interacting, loving, not loving? It is the way to take a real whole life inventory. And I highly recommend my book. I never used to do that, but you know what? It is wrong not to recommend it because it's my life's work and it actually helps. So anyhow, this is the thing. We have these kind of things that happen over time. And these things are like, what you'll notice is that you'll notice that your calendar is full, but your heart is empty. Right? You're busy all day. You can't really recall a meaningful or emotional moment. That's concerning, right? We don't have time for that. This other number 2 would be, I'm going to give you 5 numbing signals. 1 is calendar full, heart empty. Number 2 is the I'm fine reflex. That's this automated answer that we give. It's an automated kind of reassurance to people, like, I'm good, I'm fine, but we do that before we even check in with ourselves. We don't check inside and ask ourselves the real question. The third one is the decision drift. In this, it's like important changes or goals that, you wanted, or things you wanted to like achieve or experience. They float from month over month. And they just never happen, right? The decision isn't made, the action isn't taken, but it's just like another time is just kind of floating by month over month. That's a sign, right? This is a numbing signal. Okay, number 4 numbing signal is pleasure equals scrolling. That is a sure sign. That's what's happening in your life, if the default, downtime mode is scrolling, and that's like the thing you're looking forward to, or the thing you're using to relax or rest or experience pleasure, it's a serious, serious issue because it's replacing real life and vibrant things that you need to stay alive emotionally. It's kind of like default recovery. Phone, equals like joy. It's like unscheduled. It's this myth. And it's an illusion. And we're all subject to that. So we want to see that, understand it is a numbing experience, and we're addicted to our phones, and every stinking one of us is. So I just hope that you can own that and see it. Number 5 is zombie goals. And these are goals. We have these big goals. I write down goals every day. We can have these big goals, and you say you have big goals, but you secretly don't believe it. So this is an important factor. We will have goals, but there's a part of us that secretly doesn't believe it, or we doubt it, or we're like, but not 100%. We don't have certainty. Certainty beyond logic is everything. And that's another topic that we can go into. But these zombie goals, these goals that just basically we have them, we state them, we talk about them, but do we really believe them? Do you believe your goals? Do you believe? And does your behavior show it? Because our behavior, we don't really believe our goals. Our behavior will show that we do not believe in the goals that we have. I have an answer. I want you to stay with me because I have like 5 wake-ups, 5 wake-up reps. It's kind of like exercise, right? That you're going to reset, this numbing, this protocol, and we're going to match each signal these numbing signals with a solution, because I believe in living in the solution, and I believe there's always a solution to every situation that we're in. So let's just go over, and this can be a daily practice. Repetition equals re-sensitization. So we become desensitized, and we want to re-sensitize ourselves to the things that keep us alive, vibrant, creative, happy. Mediocrity and this slow numbing is hurting us and it's making us unhappy. I have personally found it. I can look at every one of these numbing things, and I'm going to do it really, really quickly for you because I think it's important. Calendar full, heart empty. I have spent the month like this. And the reason I'm even doing this podcast is because I noticed as an alarm going off in my heart, my mind, my vision, that I am unhappy. And anyone who looks, and I look around and I have achieved so much and I have such an incredibly beautiful life and there's so much around me to be grateful for, and I am grateful for it. But my calendar's full and I'm feeling on Fridays, Saturdays, my heart's empty. How come? When something like that happens, we want to ask how come. The other thing, I'm fine reflex. A lot of people who are successful or people who are, don't want to show their burden to other people, what they will do is they will just automatically auto-reassure others. It can also tap into people's shame if they feel like they're saying, I'm having a hard day, or I feel shitty, or whatever it is. One of the things that I never want to say to anyone is that I'm busy. And because that's a trigger statement for me, because I had a mom who was always saying it, like, oh, I'm so busy. But she was like never getting anywhere, but she was busy. So it was just like this negative kind of stressful feeling. And I just never want anyone to hear words coming out of my mouth that communicate stress or that communicate, even if I am stressed. That's the point. I am auto-reassuring people that I'm not stressed. I'm auto-reassuring people that I don't feel overwhelmed. I'm auto-reassuring people that I don't feel sad or I don't, feel lonely. And the reason I'm doing that is because I have a meaning attached to all of those things. If I share that I'm lonely, does that mean that I'm not valuable? If I share that I'm stressed, does that mean that I don't manage my time well? If I share that I'm overwhelmed, does that mean that I'm chaotic and that I'm a mess? Like we have ideas about this. To me, the idea of sharing I'm busy says that I'm chaotic because that was the meaning I attached to my mother being busy. When I hear somebody say that they're busy or and they're sighing, I hear victim. Doesn't mean that that's true, but that is the reason that I have no doubt that, and I have utilized this kind of not good tool to avoid and to numb out and to reassure others while not even tapping into myself. And I'm going to give you solutions to each one. The decision drift, important changes month over month don't happen. I have noticed I am the biggest, I will say, people will say, oh, you can open one location. I'll say, no, damn, I'm opening 1,000. What do you mean? Oh, I can help 100 people. I'm helping 1,000,000. So I have this kind of very go big or go home attitude about life. And what I have found is that now when I'm experiencing life and I'm looking to crush my goals and to meet them, because I believe that responsible acts produce self-esteem, fact, that if we take those things, right, and we look at them and we say, have I stopped believing in this? Because all of these go together. Because if I'm having calendar full, heart empty, I'm having this I'm fine reflex reaction or response to humans, I'm already dulling myself out, which is now convincing me, because I'm not being fully honest with myself and others, it's convincing me now that maybe I should doubt these large goals. Maybe this can never happen, you see, but not telling anyone, right? So now the other thing is pleasure scrolling. I can tell you that I am pretty disciplined in my life. I have a morning routine. I have an evening routine. However, this last month, I fell into this kind of scrolling thing. I'm tired at the end of the day, probably because of the other four numbing things I'm describing to you. Now I'm getting with this digital sedation, right? I'm getting like, I'm getting like, I'm scrolling to downshift. I'm scrolling. This habit replaces real restoration for me, like going on a beautiful walk or, hugging and playing with my dogs or calling a friend. And this kind of like, it's like a downgrade and it's like an easy path of least resistance. The other thing that we were just discussing, calendar full and heart empty. I just want to say the sense of over responsibility, carrying everyone else's emotional load, leaves no bandwidth for our own. And the other thing about, I'm returning back to the I'm fine, automated response, is this is like, I'm going to deal with it later. It's an emotional avoidance too. I'll deal with the feeling later, but later never comes because I'm not checking in with myself. I don't have to tell everybody how I'm feeling. I don't have to tell everybody what's going on with me. Don't get me wrong. But if we're not checking in with ourselves ever, and we're just telling everyone else that we're good, and we're also just not, we're just flat in our house and unhappy, there's something missing, right? So now let's go on to the pleasure. We're seeking pleasure through scrolling, through digital sedation. Then our sleep and body neglect, that's another thing. Fatigue mimics depression. It lowers emotional range. And when we are lacking sleep, which scrolling contributes to that, if we're lacking sleep. And, when we're just overdoing things, not eating properly, these all impact us feeling tired, and it's body neglect. We have to be very aware of these operating systems we've been given. We take care of our cars, right? Most of us don't read the manual. I don't, but it would be good to read the manual of our body and learn about it. So we also can have things that contribute to this kind of numbness, the zombie goals and like not, staying at that low 40% volume. And it could be like unprocessed grief. I know that I have unprocessed grief. And, it's not easy to say I'm going to segregate this time to go in, to process it, to feel the worst feelings of my life so that now I can, reframe them to have better feelings. It's not like a joyride, right? So, and then micro traumas. We have all these tiny little hits and they like accumulate. It could be marital stress. It could be losses. It could be like the pandemic, right? It could be work changes. All these little micro, I don't like calling them traumas because I do not like supporting that we're victims. We're not. But these little micro experiences that have us like kind of, we're not acknowledging, how they're impacting us. And I know for me, one of my defaults that I need to change is that I don't like to sound like somebody who complains. So if I'm feeling a certain thing like, oh my goodness, this happened and I'm upset by it, I will do it. I will talk to somebody about it, but I very often will feel as I'm saying it, it sounds so unattractive to me to talk about. It just sounds like complaining. And I think, again, it's part of like the way I grew up. I learned to become very turned off to people who are complaining and kind of in the victim mentality because I know how damaging it is. And for me, as a child of someone who acted like that, who was kind of a martyr and you always felt guilty and they were always doing too much and stressed out and busy. So then when anything like that resonates with my situation, I feel bad about myself and then I know that I need to share, but then if I share, I feel guilty or bad about it. So you see, I'm being very open with you guys to understand. I want you to hear this as like a model. I want you, and I don't want to say you guys, I want to say to the person who really is resonating with this, that you're not alone and we can fix it. And a big path to freedom always is truth. It's always knowing what's actually happening. Because all of these experiences, when we don't know what they are, it's really hard. we just know that we don't feel good and we really just don't know why. And it does pay so much to be awake, to be aware, to be in the now, especially without judgment. Please don't forget that. No judgment of yourself. It's not going to help. I want to just give a shameless plug of my book. I would really want people to have a good look at my book and to understand what it really is. I used to be ashamed to plug my book. And then I realized, how is that right? To keep the information, the 30 years of experience that I have, the 8 years of education, the trauma that I grew out of and learned how to manage and how to manage emotion, all the training I've had in neuroscience and quantum physics. How can I keep that from the public? So it's not, I used to think it was like something I should, be humble about, but being humble is silly when you're keeping things away from people that they need. So what I want to tell you about my book, and I hope that you do get it, because I think it will really help you. I've gotten a lot of tremendous feedback about my book and that it's really, really of great value to a lot of people. And what it is, it's an interactive read, and there's inside of it, there's journal entries. So as I'm teaching and going through the book and teaching you how to create the life you want by understanding how you're wired, how your thoughts, feelings, how your words, how thoughts are things, and the neuroscience behind it, and how we are programmed from the time we're 0 to 7 years old to live a life of mediocrity or a life of poor design because of meaning that we attached to events when we were children that just became our programming. What I want to tell you is that there is a way out, and it's a simple way. It's very simple. I believe in the simplicity and the grace in healing, and that it doesn't have to be a big work. So I would love it if you'd get my book. It's a best-selling book on Amazon, and it's my first. And I encourage you to get it. It's called The Wake Up Call, an interactive read for building the life you want. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Thanks so much for being on the show, and let's get back to it. So I'm going to give you some really cool kind of like wake up reps to counter these 5 numbing signals. So if we look at like the I'm fine reflex, what we need is a truth upgrade. So we need to first understand what is the reason that we're doing that. Like, what is the meaning attached from me? I just told you my meaning. What is the reason that I say I'm fine? Oh, I'm good. What is the reason? I just explained to you what it was. And you could ask yourself that question. What is it that I'm avoiding by just, or trying to show by just saying I'm fine? And we want to replace fine with like a scaled truth. So it could be, and it's a cute, quick answer, so you could say, I'm a 6, I'm an 8, I'm a 4 today, right? But it's releasing truth. It's releasing your stuck energy that you don't want to carry in your body. Because this cognitive and emotional dissonance, when you feel one thing on the inside, but you're not aware of it, so you're blind to it, but it's there. And then this external communication keeps you in line with dishonesty. And it's not that you're being dishonest intentionally, but it is not clear. Clarity helps us. Being the same, have clarity from the inside and the outside, it equalizes the pressure. So you can say 6 to 10, tired, hopeful, whatever it is. I'm a 4 today. I'm running on empty. Something, it doesn't have to be that you go into a whole explanation, and you can, but you might want to reserve that for someone who you really feel you trust and you can really have a good conversation with. But as you're going through your days, if so many people are saying, what's going on? How are you? What's happening? It's a 6 today. It's an 8. I'm at a 2. But you know what? You're saying it. You're upgrading your truth. So it's micro honesty reduces suppression, which is causing anxiety, and it's causing depression. So if you look at my micro honesty in each of these moments is reducing the suppression, which in turn reduces the anxiety, which in turn reduces the depression. So really try to do that. The next thing is calendar full, heart empty. So this is kind of like a presence, like a bookmark of being present. Head, heart, feet all in the same spot. So you could set 3 alarms on your phone. This is like the solution or a partial solution. When it rings, those 3 different alarms, you stop, breathe. I love that as just a practice. Just stop, breathe. Name 1 emotion and 1 desire 3 times a day. An alarm goes off, stop, breathe. I feel some anxiety and stress. 1 desire, I would like peace, right? Then what that does, it rebuilds your emotional contact with yourself, right? And it interrupts this dissociative experience that you're having, this autopilot that's going on in your body and your mind. You're on autopilot to just be flat, be running around, but instead you're intentional. Being intentional is a power move. It's a spiritual move. It is one of the best things we can ever do. I set my intention through every transition. So this particular action is something that I do in transitions. I have not been doing this one act over this period of time that I described to you, that I have felt depressed, down, flat, low volume, lacking hope, feeling lonely, like a lot of these like very negative experiences over this last period of time. One of the things I did notice that I have not been doing, which is our wake-up call, is that typically when I go from one transition to another, so it could be from my shower to getting ready, and then the shower to getting in the car to go to work. So when you go in the car to go to work, that's a transition moment. And that's a trigger for me. At that moment, I say, stop, breathe. And then I say, this is where I am. This is what I feel. How do I want to show up where I'm going? So I know I'm going on my drive. So one of the things I will say to myself, what do I want? What is my intention for this drive? Literally, I say this. It's become such a habit for me that it doesn't even feel like it has to be like remembered. I sit in the car. What do I want to happen on this ride? And what I want to happen is maybe there's something that I want to learn. So maybe I'll listen to a podcast, or maybe I want to pray because it's something I really want clarity on with God. So I set my intention in the car. Then I get to the driveway or the parking lot of my office. Stop, breathe. Then I say, how do I want to show up here? If you go from listening to a podcast about, I don't know, dating, and then you're like going to go in there and be a badass CEO, and you're just grabbing your shit and running in, doesn't work. It's now I'm shifting. That was something I wanted to learn. Now, who am I? How may I best be of service to God and man in this situation? That is a question I ask myself when I wake up. How may I best be of service to God and man today? Right? Thy will, not mine, be done. Now I walk into that office with, let's say, the intention. I want to be attentive. I want to look every employee in the eye. If I know I'm going to a meeting that's a leadership meeting, what is my role? My role is a wise observer to obtain the KPIs and have a good understanding of the functioning of the business, and to bring my business expertise in if that is what is required. So who am I walking in there? That is my transition. These are just examples of how I do that. And then when I get in the driveway, when I'm home, I go, how do I want to show up for my dogs? Do I want to be bitchy and complaining and stop jumping on me because I have too much stuff in my arms? Or do I want to be so excited to see them and just appreciate their exuberance in seeing me? Do I want to just lavish in the love that I'm receiving? How do I intentionally enter that room? How do I intentionally enter these different moments in life so I can maximize the quality of my life and the lives that are surrounding me? If we are not awake and aware to this fact, and we're not intentionally doing that, we get dulled out, mediocre, boring, not interesting, just stressed, resentful people. And I hope whoever's listening, and I know a lot of you out there, I know you know what I mean, because most of the world is living like that. And you're listening to this podcast for a reason, because you don't want to live that way. This is about crushing mediocrity. And mediocrity is not laziness. Mediocrity is a dulling of our soul, it's being passive recipients of whatever comes our way. And Not on my watch. We're not doing it. Okay. The next one is it's this kind of decision drift thing that I was talking about. Goal, kind of, you have a goal, you have a decision, and it just keeps going over month, and nothing ever happens. No behavior is showing up to create this thing. And you just kind of feel ongoing, kind of, wow, I don't think I really believe in this thing, right? So what we do is we have a 2-minute kind of decide window. And in that moment, what you do is you have take daily a 2-minute block. So you set your watch 2 minutes, and then you take the next irreversible step. And what that means is, unlike one stalled decision, let's say you're supposed to decide something. Somebody asked you to make a decision about, hiring someone. Somebody asked you to make a decision about if you want your child to go to camp or not. Whatever. You're deciding if you're going to take a job or not. You take that moment, and then you say, I'm going to take a step on this one stalled decision that is really bank robbing me of my energy. And I'm going to do the email, I'm going to schedule, or I'm going to ask. So the action is, you're going to lower this rumination, right? And you're going to build this agency. You're going to reduce avoidance, right? And you're also going to reduce depression. So hear what I'm saying. People ruminate constantly about decisions and don't make them. Happens all the time. And I can promise you that rumination needs to be silenced and slowed. Responsible acts produce self-esteem. A decision made is a power move. And being able to say, you know what? I am going to build agency. Responsible acts produce self-esteem. I'm going to make a decision because I am a decisive person. Being a decisive person makes you feel respect for yourself and trust for yourself. A lot of times we don't make decisions, or we don't believe in ourselves or our goals, and we don't take actions because we don't trust us. So that one little micro move can change your life. The next one is this idea of pleasure equals scrolling. What's the solution? The solution is deliberate delight. So a deliberate dose of delight. So you're going to deliberately, intentionally, remember I was discussing intention, you're going to schedule 5 minutes of sensory joy. And that may sound silly to you, but it works. Schedule 5 minutes of sensory joy before you touch your phone. Understand that your phone will take you. It will take you hostage for the rest of that period of time until you wake up and stop it. And that could be from 7 o'clock until you fall asleep at 10 o'clock. And it might push you to 12 o'clock, where then you're tired the next day because it just has taken you hostage. And you have a choice. And if you're getting dopamine hits on your phone, then you're going to be more depressed. And you're going to be more addicted to the phone because you need those hits, and you're going to need more attention from other people. You're going to need more approval seeking, because when you're on the phone and that's the only dopamine you're getting, it's going to cause you a lot of problems. It's like being a drug addict. So the intentional, positive encounters, these things affect you. So for example, before you touch your phone, one of the things that I do as a deliberate action is that I will, before I touch my phone, I will get up. I always make my bed. Make my bed. How may I best be of service to God and man today? Thy will and not mine be done. Then I take my dogs outside with bare feet, and I will walk on the grass. Whether you believe in grounding or not, I do believe in it. But whether you believe it or not, there's a feeling that happens to you when you go outside. I look around at the trees. I breathe the air. I become aware of this sensory pleasure. And that is something that feeds my soul. We want to be people who feed our souls to crush mediocrity. So there's a lot of health benefits to it, but I'm talking about something different. I'm talking about avoiding depression that does come with success. Because I can tell you, there are so many successful people. There are billionaires, there are multimillionaires who are so sad because they can't find the high. They can't find themselves in the midst of everything else. So this kind of deliberate delight dose, you can be creative and find it. Whatever it is, breathe in your puppy's nose or put your head against your dog's head. It is such a delicious delight. Intentional, positive affect, our emotion will start to flourish. What this does, it counteracts anhedonia. And if you don't know what anhedonia is, it's the absence of pleasure. There's no pleasure. And that happens when people are depressed. And that happens when people are on the phone all the time. And that happens when they're feeding their brain toxic thoughts that are actually convincing them to take their own life. It goes to that extreme, or to hurt someone else, because that is how powerful the mind is and the thoughts are. So it is our responsibility to take charge of our thoughts and to ensure that they are flourishing a garden and not planting very, very bad things that will produce very, very poisonous fruit. The next thing is the zombie goals. When you have kind of disconnected and just, have these goals that you say you believe, but you don't do anything about those bitches. So this is what we do. It's kind of like a goal integrity audit. And you're going to do this, and you're going to do it weekly. So you're going to look at your goals, and if you don't have them, you should have them. Write them down, okay? So rate your belief of your goal. So you look at your goals. So I have goals of opening more locations and serving more people and, hiring more people that we can train and we can change the world, right? And have better emotional health. So now I could rate my belief, right? I could say, do I believe from 1 to 10, how likely do I believe that that's going to happen? Then the next thing is, from 1 to 10, rate your behavior associated with that goal. So I have this belief that we're going to have 10 locations by 2026, right? So now if I believe that, if I were to rate my behavior associated with that goal, what would I rate it? So now the next thing is, if there's a gap between what you believe about your goal and what your behavior, the measurement of your behavior is, and if it's greater than 3, so let's say you believe your goal at 10 and your behavior is at a 7 or a 6, it tells you something, right? So what you need to do if your behavior is at a 6, now there's 2 ways to look at this, because sometimes our goal is too big and our behavior can't keep up with it. So what we need to do is then shrink the goal. And I never thought I would hear myself saying this, shrink the goal to something. If you believe that behavior is at its, at a good working level, then you shrink the goal so you can have experiences of success. So if I said, instead of saying I want 10 locations by the end of this date, if I said I want 1 more location by the end of 2025, and I just said that. Now, if I look at my behavior related to that is at an 8, and I believe that I can do that, actually, my behavior is at a 10 for that. And I believe that I can, because it's not a big goal. Now I'm going to have these wins, right? I'm a big believer in having huge goals too. So I'm not negating that, but we can put them in increments. So what this ends up doing is that you kind of like shrink your goal, or you upgrade your system or your actions in order to meet a bigger goal, right? But what this does is that it improves your self-esteem. It improves your self-trust. It aligns with intention and action. It keeps them together, and it keeps you awake and aware. You don't judge yourself. If you see that you're really not moving the ball, across the field, and you can ask yourself the question, is it because of all these other things? Is it because I'm so repressed? Is it because I'm just tired? Is it because I'm depressed? Is it because I'm overwhelmed and I'm not doing anything about it? Right? So this is a very tactical thing that I'm asking you guys to do. Remember my question. If your life is impressive from the outside, but strangely flat on the inside, right? This podcast is for you. What I'm telling you is that this is how I found myself living, and I didn't know what was wrong. because we can get duped into believing from success standards and from just like an illusion, being kind of lulled to sleep, thinking that we're operating at our top performance. How could we possibly be operating at our top self when we don't feel good inside? Isn't the whole point of our life to have happiness, to be sharing and giving and bringing happiness to others? Happiness is not a sin. It's not. And we've been taught that it is. We've been taught that happiness is selfish. Happiness to me is the most generous thing you could ever give to the people around you. If you think about anyone you know, if you think about your children, if you think about your parents, if you think about your spouse or your friends, when you bring happiness because you're happy, I'm not saying you bring happiness to them. When you're happy, it's contagious. When you're happy, they appreciate it. They're happier. You're more generous. You're more able to listen without thinking about yourself. Typically, when someone is focused on everyone else and they're not focusing on themselves or taking care of themselves, the biggest problem is that they actually are not showing up in their full place. And do you ever want someone to give to you who is giving out of depletion? That creates guilt in other people. That creates dishonesty. Somebody who shows up happy, all they want to do is give. So I want you to consider that and we're talking about happiness, we're talking about mediocrity, we're talking about numbness, and we're also talking about energy. All of this is energy. When that volume is down, I can feel it. When I'm not in my vibrant, excited life of my soul, who I am, I know it. I know it. I don't feel like loving. I don't feel like connecting. Because I'm not in love with myself or anything. I'm flat. So we need to be on top of this and care enough about ourselves to crush our own mediocrity, numbness, kind of this slow fade into a place we don't want to be. So I encourage you guys would you please message, comment, like, subscribe. It means so much to me, and I want to hear about the different things that you've done. I'm going to have in the show notes, I'm going to have this kind of like the plan that I just gave you for how to combat those 5 numbing experiences. And I would love it if you would do that. You join me in a weekly challenge where you would choose one and you would do it each day. And then if you could comment at the beginning of the day and that, of the week, and then comment at the end and tell me what your experience is. Tell me what you noticed from this podcast. And please, I do not monetize my podcast. There's no interruptions. There's no ads. What I ask from you, and this only thing I ask for you, is that you would share this. You would share it with anyone who you believe would benefit from this experience on this podcast. And I am always open to getting, comments. I always answer my comments and I read every single one. So even though I have people who do my editing and all that other stuff, I am personally connected to this podcast and to all my content, and I really value so much the people who are listening here. What I want you to know is this is one of the top 3% global podcasts, yet I only have this very low number of subscribers. And it's because very often people do not subscribe when they listen. So if you could just take a moment and please just subscribe, it helps me so much. I can get better guests. It helps me to not monetize. It helps me to be able to do different things on YouTube that I cannot do without a larger following, even though I have a pretty large following, listeners. So do that for me. And I just wish you so much wellness and goodness. And I look forward to when we meet again. Bye. Guys, thank you so much for listening to the show. I just want to say to you that we are all together a part of the Mission Awake, a mission that's going to stop the mediocrity that's plaguing all of us. So if you got something here today, I ask that you would be a part of this mission and you'd share it with whoever you can. Take a screenshot of the show and share it on your Instagram. If you are looking for me, you can find me on social media platform Instagram, Allison Answers, or Lager Counseling Services. And give us a review and subscribe if you could to YouTube, Allison Answers. That's where you're going to get a lot of content. I drop stuff every day, goofy stuff, all different kinds of stuff. 5-minute videos that just get you moving in your day. Have a great week. See you next time.